Hi everyone, welcome to week 9 of the singing and songwriting tutorials. As usual, I'm just going to quickly read through the disclaimer. If you are under 18, please tell your parents that you are doing this session. Feel free to ask questions, make comments, but stay safe online by only using your first name. Don't give out any of your contact details, and as always, I hope you enjoyed today's session. Okay, so the last couple of weeks have been quite music theory heavy. I've been talking a lot about different types of key changes, also known as modulation within music. And today I wanted to start off by looking at some other approaches to just putting chords together. And I also want to spend a bit of time looking a little bit more at lyric writing today, because I've not been doing quite so much of that recently. So that's the agenda for the day. And to begin with, I thought on the chords front, it would be nice to look at what happens when you only use major chords. Now, what prompted me to start thinking a bit more about this was there may be a song that you've most likely heard. It's one of my favourite soul tunes. It's called Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding. And what's really interesting about that song is, as I say, in the past, we've been talking about during this course, we've been looking at the key of C major a lot. We've been looking at changing to other keys. But just as a basis, I've been trying to get across to you the different chords within a major key. But often, like with music, the most exciting stuff starts to happen when you break those rules and when you go into other keys and you start to put different chords in. You just basically get creative with it and see what comes up. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, as I was saying, it's all written in major chords, and there's actually a reason for that. With Otis Redding, this is what I was reading recently, but somebody told me this a long time ago, and I checked it out, and it is in a book. And apparently, he could only play a guitar when it was tuned to an E chord. So he wasn't much of a guitar player, but if you listen to my guitar, normally the tuning is E, A, D, G, B, E. And if I put my fingers on in this position, it would play an E chord. But what I've done, I've tuned up the strings that would normally have those fingers on to the notes that these fingers play. And that's an E chord. An E chord, E major chord, is made of E, G sharp, and B. I had to think about that then. So the idea is I've done a separate support video this week just around this E tuning, just to show you a bit more closely. But if I press the frets, all 6 strings with one finger to make like a straight bar chord like that, I can change the chord. But the chords are always going to be major because all I'm doing is just taking that E chord up to F, F sharp, G. So Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, if you've ever heard it, it sounds like this. It's sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and I watch them roll away again. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. It's quite low. But that's how he played it, and it just happened that he happened to use those chords because the limitations of what he could do on the guitar led to something that's quite interesting. To some keen musical people, this song could be quite annoying because it's all major, it never resolves. It's not within a key, it's always kind of left open. That's one of the things I really like about it. So it just got me thinking today, maybe, this is something we could just look at. So I was thinking about just big, wide open spaces, the fact that it's wide open kind of sound. And I just, in literally a few minutes, scribbled down these lyrics last night. Open the door, open the window, let the air in, let the light in. Run down the path, run into the field, let the air in, let the light in. Run over the beach, run into the sea, don't lock me away, I need to be free. let the air in, let the light in. And this is sometimes how it works. Things just come out like that. So what my thought was, I'm going to use all major chords. But I also thought it would be nice to incorporate moving in whole tones. So what I mean by that is the first chord is E. If we move a whole tone to the next chord, so as I've spoken about before, you've got like your semitones. So a semitone is where you'd move. So if I'm there, that would be an F sharp major. If I move a semitone, I would literally move one space up, and that's going to be a G major. But if I'm moving in whole tones, I'm always going to move 2 frets. So if I'm playing the first E chord, which is open, I'm going to go 1, 2. Then I'm going to go 1, 2. And then it's 6th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. Okay, so that's quite, it creates a very open sound. So as I say, I recorded the song, I've just revised it, and it's just gone out of my head again. So I'm just going to see what I recorded. Again, example where you should use your phone. Open the window. Okay, that's enough. So I just sort of started messing around with this very simple finger sort of picking pattern. So it's just thumb, finger. So thumb, 1, 2, 3, 2. Open the door. Open the window. Let the air in. Let the light in. Run down the path. Run into the field. Let the air in. Let the light in. Run over the beach. Run into the sea. Don't lock me away. I need to be free. Let the air in. Let the light in. Open the door, and then it could go back to the start. It's just to show you the shell of an idea I've started to play around with. And when I play that, I'm suddenly imagining a lot of harmony vocals building up and it becoming this big open thing. So that just shows you how, you can have that open sound and it might inspire something open. Just mess around with, if you set yourself some kind of parameter, so you think, okay, I'm going to do everything in dominant 7 chords and I'm going to move in so many spaces. I think today it was just about the fact that often when I write, I start to think in patterns. So I'm not necessarily always thinking in all that music theory I've been talking about. I'll sometimes just think, oh, what if I move to there? What if I do this? So you can just make up your own pattern and see what comes from it. So that's something you can try. Another thing that I've been messing around with is the opposite. So all minor chords. I'm using minor 7s to be exact. So I think before I've spoken to you about minor 7s, if on the keyboard you were to play A, C and E, that's an A minor chord. So that's 1, 3, 5. And then if you put the G on, that becomes a minor 7. And I can tune the guitar to an E minor 7. So if I go back to that G string, which is currently tuned up to a G sharp, I'm just going to tune it down. And my guitar now is tuned to an E minor. And then if I also tune down the A string, which is currently tuned to B, so if I go back down a tone, oh, wrong one. 1 second. sorry, that's an E, and it's going down to a D. As I say, I have done a support video which I'll be uploading after this session, and it will explain a little bit more if you're somebody who does dabble in guitar and you're not sure what's going on. Again, like I say, even if you're someone, you might be somebody who does a bit of writing, you work with an instrumentalist, maybe a guitarist, and if you know a little bit about this stuff, you can explain to them, and hopefully they can, if you've got an idea, but you're not sure how to play what the idea is, if you have something you can present to them, then they can, if you can communicate it to them, that's going to help you in that way as well. So okay, so that now is normal, almost like normal tuning. The only difference is I've got E, that would normally be an A, but that's still tuned to a B. And I think I've even written this down. Basically an E minor 7 chord is made up of E, G, B, and D, those notes. So both of those strings are E strings. This is your G string as normal. We've got 2 B strings, because that's the normal B string, that's a tuned up B string. And then the D is that string. So even though I've got 6 strings, we've got all of the 4 notes, with some of them just doubled up. And that's sort of how it works on the guitar. Because I remember when I was learning, it used to always really confuse me. Like, what's going on? Because I think, as I always say with a keyboard, everything is literally just laid out quite clearly. And it's not always so clear on a sort of string instrument like this. Anyway, so I've been messing around with these minor 7s. And I am a sucker for minor 7s. So at the minute, these 2 chords work quite well, because what I'm actually doing is, if I go to this one as well, I'm just playing the 1, 4, 5 chords, there it is again, of the E minor key. So because we're in a minor key, the minor chords are 1, 4, and 5. But what I started to do as well then was just to see, well, where else can I go, taking it out of the key, just to take the tune somewhere else, sort of see how it sounds. So I went down to the 3rd fret. So far, that's E minor. That's E minor 7. That's B minor 7. That's A minor 7. So that's 1, 4. Sorry. Hold on a minute. I've got this written down. Getting confused. Oh yeah. So that's 1. That's 5, and that's 4. So 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 4. So, excuse me, I've been messing around with those. And then I went down to the 3rd. So this is a G minor 7, which isn't in the key of E, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so it goes there. So I found a little bit there that would take it somewhere else, and then it came back again. So what I did, I went to the G minor 7. So it was just a sudden change to a different key. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces down, back to E minor, which took it back into that key. Then I went to the 4th chord, and then I went 1, 2, 3, 4 down to there, and then up to the 5th chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I slid it back up to the 4th chord of E minor, and then back into the song as normal. And that's just something I found just by messing around, and I thought, it works quite nicely. I quite like it. So again, you can, if you tune your guitar to a tuning, you can just mess around and find all kinds of things, really. So this actually has started to turn into a song as well. But I will get to that. Just checking the time. Okay. Let's see. So that's my minor chords, working through the worksheet. So we also have, so I want to move on to lyrics a little bit. I'm going to come back to that tune I was just playing. So the other day I was talking to a musician friend of mine, Reb, if you're watching, hello. Hopefully you have tuned into this, or you will be watching it at some point. She called me up because she is writing some music. she's a bass player. She has started to make some stuff at home using various bits of musical kit. But the one thing she says she feels stuck with is writing lyrics. And I think when you've been writing for a long time, it's so easy to take for granted what you do and the way you find words and put them together if you're used to doing it. Whereas Reb is somebody who's not really used to doing that at all and doesn't feel like it's something that comes natural. So it just really, really got me thinking a lot more this week about wanting to look a little bit more at lyric writing. This section on my little sheet to remind me where I'm up to and what I'm doing, I've actually called it English Class 101. And this is interesting for me, actually, because there's a lot of things that I realise I use a lot of these things. I don't always know the terms because, I'll be honest, I didn't always listen at school, usually because my head was off elsewhere. But like adjectives, this is a word I remember strongly from school, describing words. So if you're writing, I've just been trying to think of just different ways for you to start to maybe just make the things you write a little bit more interesting, a little bit more poetic. So if I was just going to literally write something down that maybe I'm walking about looking for inspiration, you might, I wrote this down. So I walked past a tree with wonky branches. You might just scribble that down, for example, just purely as an example. But then you might go back to it and, sometimes in a song, something that blunt actually can be an interesting style choice. Sometimes I like to write in a very speechy kind of way, because I think if you can get a certain flow and a certain directness that I quite like. But if we're going down a bit more of a poetic sort of lyric writing approach, you might say, okay, so this is plain. I walked past a tree with wonky branches. Or you might suddenly turn that round by messing around with your words. You might turn it into, I wandered past the twisted tree. Its crooked arms reached out to me. So that could be like 2 lines in a verse. And then I thought about another example. So the houses on the street have got their lights on, but it's really dark outside. So maybe, you're in a village somewhere and all the little houses look cozy, but there's no street lights about and it's really dark. That could be turned into, I see the glowing windows below a pitch black sky. Well, you can turn it into whatever, but just another way of looking at things. So, this house is on the street. They've got the lights on. It's really dark outside. Oh, I see the glowing windows below a pitch black sky. So just to give you an idea of how you can take something and maybe romanticize it a little bit. Alliteration. This is something that I'm very aware of. Somehow this word, the meaning of it slipped past me at school. And I hear it mentioned a lot. And it was my 11-year-old saxophone student who sort of clarified what it was to me the other day. So basically, in the purest form, alliteration is a tongue twister. So it's where you take several words with the same consonant and you put them together. So this can be really ridiculous. If you overuse this, you can over-egg the pudding. But obvious examples are she sells seashells by the seashore, or Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So again, just thinking about ways in which you could use alliteration. The tormented tale of the twisted tree. Its woeful wailing was whittling away at me. So that would be an example of alliteration. I ran through the refreshing rain, releasing my radiance. I mean, that's just a little bit over the top. That could be off like a deodorant advert or something. But just to, again, I ran through the refreshing rain, releasing my radiance. That's alliteration. Now, this has really got me thinking this week about songs I've written in the past. Metaphors, oh God, they've always come up in songwriting, and similes as well. Now, this was always one at school that I don't know, it would often confuse a lot of people, the difference between a metaphor and a simile. So basically, a metaphor is where maybe you are writing about something else, but it symbolizes you're writing about something, but it symbolizes something else. So again, a really straight up kind of example of how metaphors come up in day-to-day life. He's the black sheep of the family. Whoever the person is, they're not literally a black sheep, but it's a way of expressing something else. So it's expressing that maybe they're the oddball in the family, or the maverick, or the person who goes off and does something that nobody else in the family would do, that sort of thing. Another one is, she got cold feet and pulled out of the sale. She got scared or apprehensive and didn't go ahead with whatever it was. So, she didn't literally get cold feet. So those are just examples of, day-to-day metaphors. And it got me on to thinking about lyrics. Is an old jazz song. I should grab my other guitar, really. It's all out of tune now. Doesn't matter. Hold on a sec. Let's see. So, now you say you love me. You cried the whole night through. Not played this for a while, but there we go. You can cry me a river, cry me a river. I cried a river over you. Perfect example. You didn't literally cry a river. I mean, there's probably not even a small pond inside my body of fluid. So, but the idea is, it's just using, you may as well have cried a river. It felt like you cried a river, whatever. I guess I'd say that's a metaphor. Whereas a simile, let's have a look. What else have I put on my scroll? Oh, too far. Oh, have I left my similes off here? Okay, so a simile is sort of saying, okay, here we go, Rhiannon. I've got Rhiannon here, the song. So, Rhiannon rings like a bell through the night, and wouldn't you love to love her? Second verse. She is, hold on a minute, she's a cat in the garden. You have to bear with me a second while I find me. She is like a cat in the dark, and then she is the darkness. She rules her life like a fine skylark, and when the sky is starless. So she is like a cat in the dark. So it's a simile. It's not sort of direct as a metaphor, as in literally using someone else to describe your situation. It's a simile is where you say, oh, this is like something. So like is often the key, I think. So he ran down the road like a Formula One race car. That you were comparing something to the situation or the person, rather than directly saying they are this, which they're not really. I don't know if I'm making this very clear. Another thing I did find actually was, let's have a look what we got here. Oh yeah, so I've been looking at other songs. Another one that I thought was quite interesting. There are some of the most ridiculous and best lyrics ever in this song. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. So, I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger defying the laws of gravity. So that's like a metaphor and then a simile, because I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky. You're not really a shooting star leaping through the sky, but it's a metaphor for how this person feels, because don't stop me now, I'm having such a good time is the chorus. Like a tiger. So it's like a metaphor then topped off saying I'm this like a tiger defying the laws of gravity. So I think that's kind of a metaphor and simile squashed together. But this song is full of them. I mean, yeah, I'm a rocket ship on my way to Mars on a collision course. I am a satellite out of control. I won't read the next bit because there are some young viewers. It's not particularly heavy, but I'll just moving on. Anyway, I love that song. Don't Stop Me Now, Queen. For the younger people who may have never heard it, if you've seen Shaun of the Dead, it's in that. When they're smashing up zombies, I think. Let's see, what else have we got? So yeah, that's the thing. A simile is sort of saying, oh, the tears fell down her cheeks like rain, whereas if you're saying, I cried a whole river over you, that's a metaphor. The tears ran down my cheeks like rain, that's a simile. But this comes up a lot. So from an example of a metaphor, I've got a song called, I wrote it a while ago, called not Loose End. Which one is it now? I should have written this down. It's called The Score. I know The Score. And in the song, I've got a lyric, I'm sitting here without a shell, you're a seagull waiting to pick me off this rock. I suppose that's a metaphor. And the idea is it's like I'm sat here feeling vulnerable and you're this thing that's going to come down and basically turn my world upside down again and make me feel like rubbish. So sitting there without a shell, I just had the idea of like a little, maybe a limpet on the rock with no shell, just a squishy ball of vulnerability. And then down comes the seagull and peck, peck, off you go, you know. So yeah, I'm just trying to give you ideas of maybe ways you could approach things. You could write down what you're feeling if you want to put something direct down, but then if you want to kind of make it a bit more metaphor-y, it's looking at it and thinking, what could symbolize away that feeling in that sentence? So I feel vulnerable, you're going to come along and there's nothing I can do, you're going to turn my world upside down. Oh, I'm a little vulnerable squishy thing, here comes the seagull, you're the seagull. So that's a metaphor. Also, a while ago, I got commissioned quite a while back now by the Uni of Leeds to write a song about subatomic particles. So I realized that most of that song, basically, I took the basic idea of, okay, let's just write a song about some kind of treachery in a relationship where the other person's run off, and then use basically subatomic, well, just use like subatomic particle theory to sort of describe. So it is completely a metaphorical song, I suppose, sort of. So one of my verses is, they said that we were indivisible, but you're an electron. You found another nucleus and soon enough you've gone. You were always negative and now I am an ion. So for any of those science buffs out there, if you've got an atom, it's made up of, it's got a little nucleus in the middle and it has hold on. We've got electrons, protons. It's not with me today. So you've got little protons flying around and you've got your electrons around the outside. And now I had to brush up on this because I wrote this so long ago, I was a bit more up on it at the time. I think if the electron leaves to go to another atom and you've suddenly got less electrons, or it also occurs to more, it also applies to more electrons than protons, that atom becomes what is known as an ion. So it was just the idea of like, you know, an electron has a negative charge, you were always negative. Now I'm an ion because you're an electron that's just left my atom and gone off to another atom, you treacherous rat. So again, just showing you other ways in which you can use, yeah, that went a bit out there, that one. But the point is, you know, just take something, think about another way you can express it. I'm not going to waffle on any more about that. So that was just to give you an idea. Now, what I thought we could sort of end on something just a bit more practical and a bit more straightforward. And this brings me back to the little, oh, hold on a minute. Brace yourself. Oh, yeah, we're okay. Every time I turn that string up, I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose an eye. I don't know if you've ever had a string break on you if you are a guitarist, but yeah, it can be quite scary. So we're going back to... So for now, I'm just going to play the 1-4-5 part of my little minor tune that I made up. And I started to think about, okay, structures in which we can write lyrics to, simple structures. And one thing that came to mind is good old-fashioned Japanese haiku. If you've never heard of haiku, it is basically a very simple 3-lined form of Japanese poetry. And the rules are that it has to have 17 syllables. So basically 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. If you're one of my younger viewers, you're not totally sure what a syllable is, it's a single sound within a word. So there are one syllable words like cat, hat, that, this, etc. And then you get words like summer that has two syllables, summer. It's made of two individual sounds stuck together. So summer, plumber, trampoline, that's a three-syllable word. So the idea is that a haiku, which I have written up on the board up here, it's made of 3 lines. There are 5 syllable sounds in the first line, 7 syllable sounds in the second line, 5 again in the last line. That's a nice little sort of formation to maybe start writing a song to. So this haiku, I've got 2 here. I just got them off. I just did a bit of searching. I just found a website. It was called familyfriendpoems.com. And I've got 2 haikus. One of them I've written on here. They were written by a person called Paul Holmes. So this one, yellow flame flickers, shadows dance upon the wall, love grows ever strong. So you've got yellow flame flickers, that's 5 syllables. Shadows dance upon the wall, actually 7 syllables in the next line, and then 5 again. Love grows ever strong. Okay. He also wrote this other one. Where is it? Oh, I thought this was quite nice, just like a autumny poem. So you've got like crunchy cornflakes, gold leaves rustle underfoot, beauty in decay. So like crunchy cornflakes, gold leaves rustle underfoot, beauty in decay. So if you take that rule, you can start to pull little bits of writing together that you can turn into a song. So I just basically took that framework and then I went rooting on my bookshelf, and some of these books are my partner's, some of them are mine. This is just an old book about birds. It's just garden birds. So I thought, oh, okay, I could do like a little tune about garden birds. So I went skimming through here, and what I did, I started to just, there's some nice, like, it's just a book with pictures, and next to the pictures is a little bit about each of the birds. So, in fact, funnily enough, there I've opened it on the start. A starling sings from a typical perch or rooftop. We got blue tits are always entertaining visitors to the bird feeders. Oh, this is true. Anyway, so book of birds, used it as some inspiration for content, and I started to pull together these verses. So at the minute I've got 4 little verses. It's not finished or anything, it's just something I've been messing with. So starlings sing their songs, woodpeckers are tapping bark, blackbirds tend their young. Robin in a tree, small and mighty, red and free, listen to its call. Fleeting kingfisher, heron gliding open sky, duckling swim in line. Flying through the sky, feathers, beaks, and beady eyes, trying to survive. So it's just the start of something that I can put to music. I'm just going to remind myself again. I always talk about this, use your little voice recorder if you have a phone. You can get all your ideas down. And in the past, the amount of songs I must have forgotten over the years. Okay. So yeah, I just started to mess around with that. I was on my other guitar and I realised it's tuned up a little bit, so I was in the wrong tuning. So just got this little groove going. Starlings sing their songs, woodpeckers are tapping bark, blackbirds tend their young. Robin in a tree, smaller, mighty, red and free, listen to its call. Then maybe I could do the next verse there, or I started to think, well, I've got this other section. Fleeting Kingfisher. Hold on. Fleeting Kingfisher. Oh, the point is, I'll have to mess around with it. At the minute, I've only really fitted it to that first bit. So let's see. Fleeting Kingfisher, heron gliding open sky, duckling swim in line, flying through the sky. Oh, okay, that bit maybe. Feathers, beaks, and beady eyes. So because it's going all over the place, you need to spend a bit of time seeing where the melody goes as well. So feathers, beaks, and beady eyes. Anyway, the point is, I'm going to try and fit some words to that other bit. But the first bit is pretty much set. So just once again. Flying through the sky, feathers, beaks, and beady eyes, trying to survive. Robin in a tree, small and mighty, red and free. Listen to its call. So, another thing with haikus, I mean, it doesn't matter if it rhymes or not, I don't think, but I think traditionally as well, they're not meant to rhyme. But again, songs, it can rhyme. Rhyming's great. It's great when things rhyme and flow, but also, again, as I always stress, things don't have to rhyme as well. If you've just got a nice rhythm and a flow with your words, it will work anyway. So I hope I've just given you a few ideas you can go away and work with there. Just with regards to your lyrics, like I say, take a simple framework. Another thing I thought of, which I'm going to try, is if you just take I don't know, like if you're like me, but I have a tendency to binge watch shows on Netflix, like so many people these days. Pick a favorite show, pick a favorite episode, maybe summarize, make points of what happens in the story, and then start to build a song around that. That's something I'm going to go away and do this week. So yeah, this is it. This is tutorial number 9. Next week, it's the last one of the term. It's week 10. I can't believe we're actually finally coming up to week 10. It seemed like quite a lot to take on at first, and now it's pretty much nearly tied up. So just to wrap up, what I'm going to look at next week is I'm calling it Bells and Whistles Week. So I want to go back and revisit songs that I've written over the last 10 weeks and just pick out bits, just have a look at getting some basic recordings of them. So I will set up my other laptop with my little mic and just show you how as I say, I'm not a music techie expert. I just have a simple setup so I can put my ideas down. And we can look at like putting harmony parts on songs and maybe have a little look at instrumentals. I might even get my saxophone out. So that's going to be next week. Just to wrap everything up, just go away, start to just have a mess around. Just I think the ultimate thing with songwriting is you just have to do it and do it a lot and listen to great music. Open, you may be into a specific kind of music, but open your horizons. Just sort of open your mind and listen to as much stuff as you can. Maybe listening to stuff that you wouldn't normally listen to. Maybe you have a lot of people, they hear the word jazz and they go, oh, I hate jazz. It's no. And it's like, no, just have a listen. Listen to some, from a songwriting point of view, one of my favorite types of songs to play is old jazz standards, because they just have some like really lovely stuff going on. Lots of harmonic richness and great melodies. So just listen to as much as you can and open your mind and get writing. Right, I'll see you next week, week 10. Take care. Bye.